So God is good, right? All the time? I love that. I don't know why I love that so much. I love the call and response. So tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about something a little more real. And I know it's hard to talk about it, especially when we're at camp and we're feeling so good. But I want to talk to you about outside of camp, which is a bummer. But honestly, we all go home tomorrow. Claire loves that. I don't know why Claire loves it so much. It's not on command. It just happens naturally. But anyways, I want to talk to you about the darkness outside of camp. I want to talk to you about the weakness. And just like when you feel alone outside of camp, we're not surrounded by such beautiful women. Just first of all, darkness is real. I think we've all experienced that, and if you haven't yet, you will, and that's unfortunate, but it's true. And for me, Pine Hills always feels like a safe place. It feels like a paradise. Does anyone else feel like that? I mean, maybe a couple more showers, couple more blankets, but besides that, I feel like Pine Hills is top of the line. And this year at church, I heard a gospel reading that really spoke to me in a way that it really hasn't in the past and reminded me of Pine Hills. And it's the story of the Transfiguration. Not going to read it to you. I'll just paraphrase a little bit. But pretty much Jesus goes up on the mountain with some of his disciples. And then Moses and Elijah appear. And he shows his glory in all that it is to the few disciples that are up there. And basically, Peter is like, Jesus, let's build some tents. Let's stay here. This is awesome. Because he's like, this is great. And Jesus well, actually, he gets cut off by God, but it's a different thing. Anyways, they don't stay there. They go down the mountain, and shortly after that, Jesus dies on the cross. I bring the story up because they experienced such a paradise there. They experienced a safe haven, but they didn't stay there. And the reason why they didn't stay there is because suffering is necessary, and it is real, and Jesus knew it was necessary. And so we really need to not embrace suffering, but accept it and realize that it's going to happen and combat it in what we can. So pretty much coming back to the Pine Hills aspect of that, I'm sure how many of us has experienced God this week? Yeah, me too. And it's great. And when I was a camper, I definitely felt that. And when I was a camper, I kind of misunderstood it. I got that feeling of being in the prayer meetings, getting that emotional high, being super happy, super excited about God. And I felt it in my heart. But then I got back home and I would pray, and I don't feel the same. I'm not surrounded by all these girls. I don't feel that burning sensation in my heart for God. And every single year, I would fall back and I wouldn't pray every day. And then come back to Pine Hills and be like, oh my gosh, I love God so much. But I'd do the same thing. I'd go home and it wouldn't be the same. I'd be like, why don't I feel God at home? Why don't I feel God in my room? And I realized later that God isn't that feeling. And it's really important to remember that God is God and God is good. But God gives us those gifts to sustain us through those hard times. Sorry, I lost my place. So I found this passage this morning, actually. I had marked it, but I don't remember marking it in my Bible. But as women, I think we struggle a lot with comparison. And this Bible verse really talked about that. So it's 1 Corinthians 12. Actually, that's not true. Yes, it is. Yes, 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 7. And it says, "Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are varieties of service, but the same God. And there are varieties of working, but the same God who inspires them all, everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good." And I kind of just found that passage this morning. I thought it was really meaningful to me, especially being surrounded by such amazing women, and always feeling that comparison, always feeling weird about how Maddie's super funny, and she can do like this lisp that I really can't do, but she does it great. Or Claire is so tall. I can never experience that. But like Juliet is really funny, and this past year, we'll come back to it. Remember that? We'll get back to it. This past year has been a hard year for me, and I really lost God in the middle of it. I forgot who God was, and it all centered around kind of the winter time. My grandma died. I went through a breakup. It all just kind of happened at once. And I've always been a very strong person. I felt very weak. And something that the devil kind of put in my mind and in my spirit was that, no, you're strong. You're fine. And that was a lie that I had never really heard before, like being like, you're fine. Because I was always that like strong person. I always knew I wanted to be a pilot. I was always very confident in what I wanted to do. So when I like felt weakness, I didn't turn to anyone. I was just like, you're fine. You'll get through it. It's fine. And so I ended up losing my faith. I stopped going to church. I stopped praying. And I refused to admit it. I told myself I could handle it. So the first time I realized that I was doing this was kind of the opposite of what we talk about at camp. We always talk about how you can see the light in those with God in their lives. And I never really related to that. I was like, well, like, you can see the light in Juliet or, like, Adora, but, like, me, I'm kind of not as funny, like, I'm not as cool, so just, like, subtle lights, just little flickers. But when I lost God, actually one of my coworkers came up to me, and he's not a godly man. He's kind of just like this super big guy, and you wouldn't expect this coming from him at all, but he was like, hey Liz, you're not as joyful as you used to be. And I was like, what do you mean, Zach? And he's like, well, I don't know, like, you're smiley and like you're still you, but I don't really know. I just thought, I don't know what I want to tell you, but you're not as joyful as you used to be. It's very interesting coming from someone that I know didn't have a faith, and I was like, this is weird. But I recognized my darkness, and he recognized it. Other people recognized it. And so I want to give you guys some tips on when you are in that darkness. So what I did was I called Juliet Collins. And Juliet, I don't know if you remember this conversation. It was kind of towards the springtime. I don't remember exactly where I was. But I don't think we had talked for a few months. And we kind of started talking, and it felt so natural. And I knew that I had a friendship in the Lord with Juliet in there. And immediately after talking to her, like, it changed. Like, I admitted to being weak. I admitted to being afraid. I had admitted to my darkness. And someone else was praying for me. And that's so big. Like, you're going to have friends. And you, like, admitting to your darkness is one thing. But also, they're going to fight for you. They're going to fight with you. And that's awesome. So one, you're struggling, turn to your friends. Who's made a friend out here today? Or not today, but this week. Maybe you made a friend today. That's okay. But this week, like, take their digits, take their email. It's going to help, trust me. So that's the first one I want to talk to you about. The second one is journaling. And let me tell you, ladies, I freaking hate journaling. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I don't like writing. That's not my thing. I'm always the last person who turns in their papers like last minute because I'm like, well, I guess I have to do this. But I don't like journaling. I don't like it. But this past year when I was in that darkness, I opened my prayer journal and I have like 10 prayer journals and all of them have like the first 20 pages filled and nothing else. Like, I have so many prayer journals. So I'm like, oh, maybe if I buy a new one, it'll work. Anyways, journaling's real. Like, we're going to leave it there. It's not going to work. But I sat down and I started journaling. And you know the thing about journaling is you can't not finish your thought. And when I'm praying and I'm just like, well, I don't really need to write it down because I can just use my words. I always get distracted. Or I'm like, well, I'm pretty hungry, so I better make some food. But like journaling, you write down half a sentence and you're like, are you going to make food right now? No, like, let's finish your thought. Let's finish your thought. Because you're writing something down. So that kind of like forced me to pray. And take it from someone who doesn't like journaling, it really helps. And then number 3, there's 4. 3 out of 4. Make it a habit. I play the cello, if you haven't heard. And my orchestra conductor in high school, his name was Professor Elliott, he was great, would always say practice makes permanent. And I super loved that because it's like, no, if you're practicing something wrong, it's going to be permanently wrong. It's not going to be practice makes perfect. Practice does make permanent. So if you're having a habit of always making food when you're praying, probably not going to finish your thought. But if you're writing your prayer journal, or you're going to church, or you're calling your friend, or like writing a letter, that's going to make a permanent impact on your life. And number 4, 4 of 4. I just wrote down face him. And this is something that it's been on my mind for the past couple of weeks. And I've told a couple of the staff members just this memory. And it is from flight training, so you guys can have a real example of me flying. It was from early on in my flight training. When you're the pilot in command, you're in the left seat, just so you know. So I'm right here, and my flight instructor's right here. And he goes, Liz, we're on descent now. Let's point towards the airport. I was like, okay. I pointed with my finger. It's like, it's right there, just so you know. And he started laughing because it was comical. And he's like, no, like, I mean with the airplane. Like, we're trying to land right now. And I was like, got it. Makes a lot of sense. I get it. But I, like, even in my prayer life this past couple of weeks, that's been on my mind. And it's really, like, connected me to, like, yeah, you can know he's right here. And you can know everything about him. You can know that it's what direction it's in. Like, you can know he's right there. But it's a huge other thing to face him. To turn your body, to turn your airplane, and face him. So I'd encourage you to do that. And if you want to share this thing before you guys got here about setting your compasses on, or your Jesus compasses on north. So, and that, just being a pilot, really struck me because when you're in the plane, I don't know if you guys know this, but you actually do have to set your compass because there's a magnetic compass here, and then your compass on your 6-pack, it's called your dials, gets really messed up when it's it doesn't have power. So you actually do have to like turn your compass to point north. So I just encourage you to point your compasses on Jesus. Point your north towards Jesus. So going back, number 1, if you're struggling, talk to someone. Find your Juliet Collins and call her. Number 2, journal. I know. Journal. It's a big thing. Everyone will tell you to do it, but coming from someone who doesn't like it, do it. It helps. Number 3, make it a habit. Practice makes permanent. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And number 4, face him. Face ladies.